Amy, let me tell you about a magical place that is so exactly designed to be enclosed space, year-round fun for the whole family that I bet you already know what I'm going to say before I even say the name. Let's say it together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Great Wolf Lodge. You got it, Amy.
My kids loved Great Wolf Lodge when we went. You probably already know that it has a huge indoor water park with a wave pool, lazy river, a bunch of massive water slides. But then your pack can hit the other attractions because wait, there's more.
Great Wolf Lodge has adventure-packed attractions like Magi Quest, a live-action game kids can play throughout the lodge, plus the Northern Lights Arcade. Spent some quality time there, so your kid who loves the lazy river and your kid who loves fantasy games will both have a great time.
Great Wolf Lodge also offers great dining options and complimentary daily events like nightly dance parties, all under one roof. Unpack the car once and you're settled in to have fun. And with 22 lodges across the country, you're always a short drive away from adventure.
We've both had such great times at Great Wolf Lodge, so bring your pack together at a lodge near you. Learn more at greatwolf.com and strengthen the pack. Hello and welcome to Fresh Take from What Fresh Hell, laughing in the face of motherhood. This is Margaret, and today I am talking to Eli Harwood, who is a licensed therapist who lives in Colorado with her husband and 3 children. Eli has been nerding out on attachment research for the past 2 decades and is on a mission to help make the world a better place, one relationship at a time. She is the author of the new book, Raising Securely Attached Kids. Welcome, Eli, to What Fresh Hell.
Thank you, Margaret. So good to be here.
So we always like to start on the podcast with the question, is this really a problem? Because sometimes I think we talk about things and it's like, maybe this isn't even a problem. So let's start with the definition of secure attachment for kids and talk about why you think it is so fundamental. That's what our whole conversation is going to be about. But in brief, what is secure attachment? Why do we need it?
Okay, secure attachment is an experience between a parent and a child where a child can sense that their parent is capable of being there for them emotionally when they're tender, when they're overwhelmed, when they're distressed. So it's this quality of, I can rely on my caregiver when I am not okay. And it's not just like my personal opinion that this matters.
Although we would love it if it was. You've actually done some research.
Yes, there's actually 70 years of research, replicated, validated, longitudinal research that shows us that when children have secure relationships, it actually affects the way their brain develops, the way their sense of self develops, how confident, how independent, how empathetic, and in the long run, how resilient they are in response to the crap that life hands all of us.
Yeah, you can Google this stuff, and there's a lot of this stuff in this book that even with babies who don't have secure attachment, how you'll see a video and it's 2 babies who have secure attachment and 1 who doesn't, and how differently they relate to experiments and games and blocks that are put in front of them. It's kind of mind-boggling. It's tough too, because the good news is we're talking to parents who want this and are working on this, but it can feel kind of tough. And what gets in the way of secure attachments? Because I think for a lot of people, and you talk about this in the book, did we have secure attachments? A lot of us parent the way we were parented. And so it can be hard when we think of ourselves maybe as a little baby who was already kind of not doing the secure attachment stuff, and how when we find ourselves in our 20s, 30s, or 40s starting to parent, I think some people might feel like, oh, it might be too late for me to figure this out. What do you say to those people?
I love this question. There's so many layers here. First, I want to say, okay, everybody take a deep breath. I know that there is nothing matters more to us than our kids feeling loved and supported and understood by us. And so if you're freaking out, you're like, oh no, what if my kid isn't secure? What if I haven't done this well? Like, okay, we're not doing a perfection game. Our goal is to be good enough. And we actually have data that says that when we are connected and available and attuned to our kids, 30% of the time, they will have a secure experience with us. So this is, I joke that parenting is graded on a curve. No one's hitting that 80 or 90%. And so 30% is still an A. That's all we're aiming for.
It's like you used to, I don't know if they do it this way anymore. I may be dating myself. You used to get 200 points on the SAT for just writing your name down. Okay. You're somewhere along there. You showed up, Yeah.
Yes. I mean, if you're a parent who's listening to this and you're trying to create a positive relationship with your kid, you're probably either good enough or real close. And so what are the barriers? The barriers are our beliefs about emotions, needs, and relationships. So what did we inherit in our own childhood? Our body states can be a barrier. So if we live in a place of constant anxiety, that's going to be more challenging in terms of helping our kids feel calm and safe and like we can handle things. Or if we live in a really disconnected place, maybe we drink our way through our feelings, that's probably going to make it harder for our kids to feel secure with us. Lack of intention to heal or address things from our past can get in the way. Can war get in the way? Yes, of course. Keep going.
Yes. If you're not in a secure environment, and war is an extreme example, but you might have a war going on within your own home or something, you might have a great deal of insecurity within your own home that is perhaps not totally within your control. And so some of this is work that we do internally, and some of it is circumstantial. But I think the point that you make in the book really well is, and we talk about this in all sorts of realms of parenting on the podcast. Step one is this acknowledgement step, is sort of doing an audit, right, for ourselves on where are we? I think we will assume facts and evidence that there's enough research that says secure attachment is something that we all want. We're not going to debate whether or not that's an issue. Secure attachment has been proved to be absolutely foundational to children's health. And so we want secure attachment. And so I guess step one is, where are we in that self-awareness? That's exactly what I'm trying to say.
I see self-awareness as always requiring compassion. If the thought that goes through our head is, I'm a terrible parent, that's actually not self-awareness. That's a deep sense of distortion about ourselves. But if we hear in our head, you know what, I've been really distracted lately. I haven't been present. And I can understand why, because I've had a lot going on at work or in my relationship, or, we have that compassion, but we also acknowledge, I am going to make some effort to be more connected to my kids when I'm with them. Or I do struggle when my kids are emotional because it kicks up my trauma. And so when my kid gets angry, I see the angry face of my abusive parent growing up, and I shut down and let my kid get whatever they want. Or the opposite, I battle and I treat them like they're a perpetrator. Whatever the thing is, we want to be able to know what is happening in our relational patterns with our children and be honest with ourselves in a kind way that helps us to move forward. So if this is the case, if I have unresolved trauma, what now? Well, I probably should be in therapy. I should probably have some support around processing what happened in the past so it's not so present in the present.
I want to underline the sentence, be honest with ourselves in a kind way, because I think that sometimes it all feels very mysterious. And you talk about in the book, there's a million books out there that are going to make sure that your kids eat like French people at 11 o'clock at night without complaining ever. There's a million books that are like, we have the secret key to great children. And I do think that the only secret key is to be honest with ourselves in a kind way and to say, it doesn't have to be going perfectly, but I think we've all had times where we felt like it's really not going well. And so I'm yelling, or I've told a story many times on the podcast about grabbing one of my kids in a way that I was like, wow, that wasn't great. And leaving a mark on that kid and thinking, I know that's not right. My first reaction is, I'm never going to speak about that ever happening again because that was shameful. And then in talking about it, people were like, oh my God, I would have never said it in the world, but I did that once. I grabbed my kid too hard. And I think that barrier is this first step, which is, let me acknowledge what is getting in the way of what is our universal goal of securely attaching.
Yes. And I also want to underscore that we have an incredible flexible attachment system. And what I mean by that is the pattern that our children experience with us is really what they absorb. Those moments where we are off and it is not typical, as long as they aren't profoundly cruel or scary or volatile, they don't tend to be absorbed with as much understanding of us and our relationship as the overall pattern. So, every parent has that moment where they are just so flooded and overwhelmed and they flip their lid, lose their biscuits, whatever you want to call it. And all of us have regular frustration, annoyance, moments where we can't offer empathy. That's just par for the course. The key is, are we able to notice it in time, that it doesn't become a pattern, and repair it in a way that allows that synchronicity to come back into place? And I'll tell you, I did this morning with my girls. I've been in and out of town. So we're all, our like routine is all in chaos. And anyway, I let them watch TV before school, which I normally don't do. Was not my best choice because then we had to reroute. And so then they were having a moment and I had stuff to do this morning, which, is actually why I haven't showered. I'm in my like morning gunk because I was like,
you're pulling it off. You're pulling it off. Looking cute.
It doesn't matter, right? No one actually gives a crap. But like I was feeling the pressure of, I have to get to work. You guys need to get to school. And we were the cooperation was low. And so I felt my nervous system get to the place. I mean, my response to my kids when they were crying in the car was like, you're going to have to stop this. This is not working, right? And that never works. No kid ever is like, you know what, Mom, you're right. I'm overreacting.
You do need to go to work, Mom. Let me stop this terrible behavior.
But I was really grumpy and there was zero empathy in me and we were getting to school. But the whole time I was coaching myself in the car going, they're doing the best they can. You're doing the best you can. This is hard. It's not going well. But it's not a disaster. This is not the moment where your kids are like, and I'll never trust you again.
Well, you blew it. You almost had it. But that one Friday, you just blew it. That was it. Sorry. Lost the award.
Let's try that again. You were such a grump. I can't trust you anymore. So when we parked, I paused, I took a deep breath, and I crawled to the back of my disgusting van with my children stepping on Cheetos and everything. And I undid I've got twin 4-year-olds. So I undid both of their seatbelts and thank you. I need them. And I just looked at them both and I said, I'm so sorry that I was so crusty and had no patience. Can we try again? Can we have a restart for our morning? And they both said yes. And they wrapped their little arms around me and we had a big hug in the back of the van. And I said, okay, we can do better, hon. They said, yeah. And we got out of the car and they went to school and I did my little hug, a kiss, a hug, a mug, and a high five that we do every day when we say goodbye at preschool. And they'll be fine. And I will run to see them in the afternoon when I pick them up. I'll be like, hi. And they will not have experienced a rupture in their trust of me. We just had a rough car ride to school.
Right. I love that point. I am talking to Eli Harwood. She is the author of Raising Securely Attached Kids, and we'll be right back.
Hellions, it's time for some spring cleaning, and I don't just mean the coat closets. Doing your financial spring cleaning can actually be super easy when you let Monarch do your financial spring cleaning for you. One dashboard that gets your entire financial life organized. No more clutter, no more mess, no more logins scattered everywhere, just accounts, investments, property, and more, all in one place. Get your first year of Monarch for half off, just $50 with promo code FRESH. Monarch allows you to look not only at what you've already spent, but also to plan for the future. With Monarch, you can set savings goals, plan for big purchases, and notice spending trends before they become a problem. I can generate cash flow reports that show me what we spent this quarter, this month, what we're probably going to spend next month, and feel prepared, organized, and knowing how to plan for the future. No more surprises and a lot more clarity. Try Monarch. Use code FRESH at monarch.com to get your first year half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year at monarch.com with code FRESH. My favorite skincare products actually feel more like self-care, like they're so nice to put on and they smell so good that I'm actually happy when I get to that part of my day. And I swear that is how I feel about Osea's anti-aging body balm.
Amy, you are usually the lotions and potions queen on this podcast, but I have to say, hard agree.
Osea's anti-aging body balm is a liquid silk body balm that combines the lasting hydration of a lotion with the firming power of a serum, leaving skin smoother and firmer.
This body balm is clinically tested and designed to deliver visible results you can see and feel.
So we've gotten to use this product for a couple of months now, and I swear I have really noticed firmer and smoother skin, like on the back of my hands. It's like getting a mini spa treatment from head to toe.
Get a spring-worthy glow with clean, clinically tested skincare from Osea. And right now, we have a special discount just for our listeners.
Get 10% off your first order site-wide with code FRESH at OseaMalibu.com.
That's 10% off your first order with code FRESH at OSEAMalibu.com.
All my kids learned to swim when they were little. It was super important to me that they be confident and safe in the water. There was only one problem with that: taking them to swim lessons. I mean, the pools were freezing. There were always cranky adults doing laps right there. And it was definitely not, for any of us, what you would call fun.
Amy, heard. But now there's Goldfish Swim School. Goldfish takes a really thoughtful approach to swim lessons, combining research-based teaching with a warm, kid-friendly environment that actually helps kids thrive in the water.
Every detail at Goldfish is thoughtfully designed to create a golden experience, from shiver-free, warm indoor pools to comfy waiting areas for parents to professionally trained lifeguards on deck.
Goldfish uses an approach called the science of swim play, which combines guided play with proven teaching techniques to help kids learn to swim, build water safety skills, and gain confidence, all at their own pace. Lessons are designed to meet kids exactly where they're at.
If you've been thinking about swim lessons or just wondering where to start, this is a great opportunity. Right now, Goldfish Swim School is offering a waived membership plus your child's first lesson free at participating locations.
Just visit goldfishswimschool.com/free to find a location near you and enroll using promo code FREE.
That's goldfishswimschool.com/free, promo code FREE.
So you say that you nerd out on attachment styles, and we are very research nerd focused on this podcast. We like to go to the research. And so let's talk about attachment styles and attachment patterns that you lay out in the book, because I think this is kind of risen to the language of like Real Housewives. You know what I mean? Like people are sort of throwing out, people are throwing out their attachment styles on The Bachelor all of a sudden. And I think that then it becomes kind of like, it's like your love language or something. And you're like, wait.
I was just going to say, like, what Harry Potter character are you?
Yeah. And it's a little deeper than that. This is actual research. It's not what Gryffindor house you're in. Exactly. So talk a little bit about attachment patterns and why they have meaning.
Okay. So when we talk about a secure attachment, we know that, okay, that's the ideal situation. A kid is born into a home where a caregiver is calm, warm, responsive, and able to soothe them when they're in distress. Great. But we're not all born into the home of a caregiver who can do those things. So when we have a parent who is avoidant, maybe they are really uncomfortable with feelings and very dismissive of feelings, or they are
avoidant being one of the attachment patterns.
Or maybe our caregiver is highly preoccupied. They're very anxious and they're constantly checking in. Are we okay? And they're modulating their behavior based on our emotions. And there's this kind of helicoptery vibe. Or they have really profound problems. Maybe they have a severe heroin addiction, or they have abusive belief systems. If our caregiver isn't secure, we have to adapt in order to maintain closeness to them, because we still need closeness with our caregiver. We don't have the capacity as small children to look at our parents and go, I can do better. I'm going to go see what's in the catalog. Right? It's like we have who we have. And so as children, we adapt.
We have who we have. And what we've talked about a lot on the podcast is we love who we have. We don't even think to look for the catalog. We love who we have.
Yes. And we tend to blame ourselves as children when things aren't secure, because again, we can't say this parent is really inadequate for me, because then what? I'm reliant on this person. And so the attachment patterns are adaptations that we make in order to be as regulated as we can and still have access to the safety of a parent. Because our parents are still feeding us and protecting us from gorillas and saber-toothed tigers and whatever else could potentially eat us.
Right. And even going back to getting 200 on the SAT, even the most non-functional parent is, if you're still in their home, they're still probably feeding you and maybe like helping you get out the door in the morning. They're not. Yeah.
There's shelter. There's functionality. Yes.
There is some level of function there. That's right. Even in the most dysfunctional home. Yeah.
Yes. So if you have a parent who is underreactive to your emotional needs or overreactive to your emotional needs, and that is pretty much always how they are. What you do is you adapt with an avoidance strategy, and you aren't avoiding attachment. You avoid expressing your tender needs and distress outwardly. Because when you do that, the parent overreacts or underreacts and you feel worse. So you learn, and this is very young. This research is on kids 12 to 18 months.
So, I mean, I've seen this research and these
wild.
videos will break your heart.
I mean, for those who want to look it up, it's The Strange Situation. I talk about this in the book, so you can learn much more about it in the book. But when that's happening and that avoidant strategy develops, it's called a deactivating strategy. So I am going to have a deactivation of my needs in order to remain close to this person. And in the long run, that creates a lot of complex struggles in close relationships, because we find intimacy with people by relying on each other and letting each other in and being intimate emotionally. But if you had an avoidant strategy, that doesn't feel safe. It feels like, no, that's going to burden people and things are going to get worse. So my job is to swallow what I feel, distract myself, and leave the room essentially when the emotional stuff comes up.
And I think it's interesting, and the way you describe it in the book, it really makes sense, is secure attachment. Because I think that sometimes it's that over-attachment piece that is difficult. And so you think like attachment good, but secure attachment is not lock and key attachment. I have to be this to get this. I have to fit this mold to unlock this key. And some people are very, very attached to their parents, but it's not right.
So actually, but it's still insecure. So let's talk about that. So the second category, so that first category of parents where they cannot offer soothing, calming, emotional support. They are not capable of it because they have high anxiety or they have deep avoidance. The second category of parents are those who are intermittently able to offer that type of support. So a child experiences at times that wonderful, warm feeling of their caregiver being a safe haven and a support and a calm place where they can get calm and understood. But the caregiver isn't able to do it at a volume that is predictable. And so what happens for a kid is they become hypervigilant. They're like, I know you have these goods in you, but I don't know when they're coming out, why they don't always, and how to get them from you. And so I'm going to cling to you, not because I'm so attached to you, but because I don't trust that you're actually going to be there in a moment where I need you.
That's a tough one. That's a really hard one. It's like you get a little bit of it, but you know it's there. In some ways, and people talk about these attachment styles for partnerships, like romantic relationships as well. People use the same kind of language, which is not what we're talking about, but that's kind of more the Real Housewives version.
Yes. Well, and actually, just this is the nerdy side of it. There are two different bodies of research on attachment. One is from the developmental psychology. It has a longer tradition of research. The other is from social psychology. It was inspired by Mary Main, one of the developmental psychologists, but it actually doesn't correlate. So we have some interesting stuff in the attachment world to try and figure out, because when people say, oh, I have an anxious attachment style, they're talking about that social psychology research. And it can be more complicated than that for many reasons. But in the developmental research, we see all of the insecure styles as anxious. And we're looking at the avoidant style as an anxious style. It's just how is the child coping? And we're looking at we'll call it resistant or ambivalent in childhood, and we call it preoccupied in adulthood. I mean, it gets so techie and complex that, yes, you're so right that what's happening on the internet when people are like, attachment styles is not nuanced enough, because we can actually have one pattern with one parent and another pattern with another parent or grandparent or caregiver or nanny or whoever. So that idea that we're one style is actually fairly rare. I will say, though, we do tend to have a dominance in our pattern. So I had that preoccupied, ambivalent style with my mom. My mom was sometimes able to be there for me, but she struggled with deep, deep, deep depression and PTSD. And so she would go through these bouts of depression and all of a sudden she wasn't available anymore. And so I developed that hypervigilant clinging pattern, definitely played out in my romantic relationships, some of my romantic relationships, not all of them. If I dated someone who was more clingy than me, I felt avoidant. So, it's context dependent, it's relationship dependent. I'm more interested in studying the quality of a relationship than studying one person's particular pattern because we do tend to change in different relationships.
Yes. But as you bring it into the world of this book and what we are taking from this book for ourselves as parents, the sort of overarching idea of the book is about connection. In fact, you say connection is the most powerful form of influence. And I think it's interesting because what gets in our way of these connections sometimes is almost believing that. Like, I am an anxious parent and I work on it a lot and I have a whole podcast about it and I talk to a lot of people. But I think sometimes that anxious parenting, which is like, are you okay? And how can I fix it? And I will get in front of you and I will make it okay. And you will have no problems because that will be good. It feels like connection. It is very connected, but that anxiety is so much part of the connection.
Yeah. Well, and I would just say from a semantic perspective, I wouldn't necessarily call that connection. Connection is more of the feeling of someone being attuned to us. So if my child is in the room and I'm full of anxiety about it, am I effing up as a parent or not? Right? Then when I interact with my child, there's this kind of cloud of anxiety that's mine in between me and them. And that's going to affect how I perceive them. And so I'm not actually as connected as I could be if I had done the work to sort of soothe, calm, and regulate my own nervous system and have a little voice in my own head that says, you're a really good mama. You love your kids so much. They're going to have feelings and pain and hard stuff, but they're also going to have you.
It's that secure part that's kind of very fundamental. And you use the metaphor, and I've heard another metaphor on this topic of tag being the home base. I love a metaphor. I really have a metaphor mind. I'm like, I don't get it. And you're like, it's like this. And I'm like, oh, wait, I totally get it.
In the same way.
So tell us about the tag metaphor.
So in the research, we talk about a safe haven and a secure base being the two functions of a secure attachment relationship with a parent. And so when I was a kid and we played tag, we always had sort of like a home base where once you were at home base, no one could tag you, but you couldn't also get to the other place. And so we would leave home base, right? And that was exciting. That was exhilarating because maybe you were trying to get to the other side, or was this capture the flag? Anyway, it doesn't matter. My metaphor falls apart a little bit the more I talk about it, but you're leaving home base and you're going on this adventure. And then if someone's trying to get you, you run as fast as you can back into home base and then they can't get you and you feel this kind of safe haven. And what we're doing with our kids from a developmental perspective is they come into our arms, especially if they start in our arms when they're babies. I'm aware of adoptive parents and that's a whole other conversation, but they come into our arms and they are needing us to be almost entirely safe haven at the beginning. We are just the place. That is all we do. We feed them, we nurture them, we keep them warm, we keep them regulated, we respond. But as they develop, then we are the facilitators of their adventures in the world, right? So then they start to explore across the room or across the street, or they go to school. And then part of our role is existing as a place that they can draw upon in their minds and in their bodies, knowing I have a home base to go to. I can explore a little bit. And so then they come home at the end of the day from a hard day at school and they fall apart. They don't always fall apart in ways that make sense to us. You know, it might just be that they have a meltdown about the snack we gave them, but they let it out with us because they know I'm here now. I'm safe now. And if we can effectively cultivate that positive relationship, then they wake up the next day and they're ready to go explore again out in the world. And we sort of do this dance. And then as they get into adolescence, the ratio changes. So now we are far more secure base than we are safe haven. And they slowly start using their friends as a safe haven. And then they grow up and we are still always a home base for our kids. No one like outgrows parents. You're not like, and now I forgot I had parents. That was a thing. Oh yeah, I forgot. Oh.
Well, and my mom is 7 years gone and still my home base. You know, it's like your home base in your soul. It's the person you go back to and you touch those things of what would she have said? What would she have told me? I was lucky to have a mom who was an awesome, securely attached parent. You're always that, but I love that metaphor. We spoke to somebody who used the metaphor of the umbrella holder, like they're the umbrella holder. And then in beginning, you stand under the umbrella. And then whenever you need an umbrella, I'm here. You can come back and get one from me. I think those metaphors just help so much more because it's like, I spent the day holding my kid and running around during tag. Like, I got to let them run around. That's the excitement. That's the fun. Oops, that was my mistake. I'm home base. I was playing the wrong role today, but I know how to get back to the right role. My role is home base. I feel like those metaphors just light me up because I'm like, I get it. I know how to do that.
So when I wrote this book, I actually wrote the dedication before I wrote anything else. And I mean, you should read the whole book, but also I think the best part of the book is my dedication to my kids. And it says to Slate, Remy, and Rune, you are the best string of luck I have ever had. No matter how soggy or crispy you feel, or how far you wander into the world, you will always have my arms to return to as a place to be known and loved.
Amazing. All right, everyone go get Kleenex out now while we take this break. I'm talking to Eli Harwood. She is the author of Raising Securely Attached Kids.
You know that thing where you get an amazing pair of shoes at a really great price and want to tell everyone about it? Yeah, so do we. Here at Designer Shoe Warehouse, we'll give you something to brag about. Like the latest styles from brands you love, or the trends everyone's obsessing over, or shoes that make you feel like, well, you. So go ahead, show off a little. Find shoes that get you at prices that get your budget. Head to your DSW store or DSW.com today. DSW, let us surprise you.
Amy, when I'm having a good hair day, it usually makes my whole day better. And that's why on every day, I'm taking Nutrafol.
Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist-recommended hair growth supplement brand, and it's the #1 hair growth supplement brand personally used by dermatologists. Nutrafol's hair growth supplements are peer-reviewed, NSF certified for sport, and clinically tested.
Nutrafol offers multiple formulas for men and women, tailored to different life stages and lifestyle factors, so you get support that's actually right for you. Adding Nutrafol to your daily routine is easy. Order online, no prescription needed, with automated deliveries and free shipping to keep you on track.
Let your hair be one less thing to worry about. See visibly thicker, stronger, faster-growing hair in 3 to 6 months with Nutrafol.
For a limited time, Nutrafol is offering our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping when you visit Nutrafol.com and enter promo code LAUGHING.
That's Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code LAUGHING.
Let's talk a little bit, as you do very well in the book, that sometimes kids can feel like they're the harder part of the secure attachment. I have kids and many loved ones in my life who are on the spectrum, who are not. You know, as we think of secure attachment, is like one of my kids will still, as an older kid, come in and be like, you look beautiful, Mom. I love you. Crawl up in my lap. Like, they're still doing it. You know, they're yes. Like, I don't want to say easy to attach to, but I do think that on the spectrum of attachment, that sometimes our own kids can be hard to attach to.
Relational synchronicity is something that is easier for kids with certain brains, right? So
okay. I like that. Relational synchronicity, because I don't want to make it sound like these kids are...
that there's something wrong with them.
Yeah, there's something wrong with them, but there are kids who are easier to attach to.
For us to feel in sync with. So that's the key. So they're attached, but it's within whatever kids we've been given, you know, or we've created, however you want to say it. There is a sense of, oh, I know how to get in sync with this kid. Sometimes it's easier to get in sync with our kids that are just like us because we get them. Sometimes it's easier to get in sync with our kids who are not like us because we don't butt heads with them. You know, it just depends. It's so unique to each parent-child dynamic. But I have 3 kids. They are all very different. And there are seasons of each of their development that are easier for me to connect and seasons that are harder. And there are specific ways. One of my kids, I would describe her love language as wrestling. I mean, she is a sensory seeker. She just wants to move and touch. And I am not a sensory seeker in that way. Like, I just do not want people pulling on my face and my neck and my arms and no, thank you. But that's what makes her feel full. And so it has been a challenge for me. Whereas my other daughter is kind of what you described. I mean, she just puts her hands on her face and she's like, Mommy, I love you so much. You're the best, Mommy. And I'm like, I love you too. And we like kiss and we snuggle and she stays very calm in my arms. And so I get regulated when I hold her. Whereas with my other daughter, I get dysregulated when she tries to get the type of touch she needs from me. So there's more effort on my part. And she probably has ADHD. That's my guess. She's a little young for diagnosis. But my job is to go, what can I do to create synchronicity with her? And what I've figured out is I take her on hikes. This kid will hike. She's 4 years old. She will hike for 3.5 miles without complaining because she's getting sensory stimulation she needs.
That's like 3.25 more miles than I will hike without complaining.
Well, I mean, my other two kids walk like halfway up the first hill and they're like, are we done? Yeah. But I've found this kind of place where I can enjoy it because I love nature. And so the two of us can get in sync. And it is wild to me what happens after a hike with her and I. I mean, she just melts in differently. Her whole nervous system regulates because she's needing a lot of sensory input, and that gives it to her and we can do it together. So I think if your kid hates eye contact and you love eye contact, you're going to have to grieve that a little bit and then figure out, okay, what can I do to create that synchronicity? And it might be activities you do together. It might be the way you use your language, you use your words. One of my kids thinks when I say, oh, well, that's so cute, she thinks that's an insult. I don't know why. She's like, I'm not cute. I'm like, okay. So like note to self, I'm going to be thoughtful about what I say. And so I'll say, what do you like? Do you like, what word do you like? And she'll be like, I like awesome. I'm like, great. That was awesome. So we're putting in our work to recognize when we're struggling to be in sync with our kids, and we're getting creative so that they have the experience of synchronicity with us based on our efforts to get in sync with them.
I think that's such a good point. And as a parent of now some teens and some tweens, believe me, you are the prettiest mommy ever and I love you. Like, it doesn't happen when your smelly 16-year-old boy comes through the door. But I do think that, and what I like about the way this is presented in the book is, we say all the time, we don't put stuff in front of our audience that makes their life harder. This actually makes your life easier. It seems like work, but in fact, a lot of the bells and whistles that you're hearing about are 8 million times less important than secure attachment. So like whether or not I'm driving my kid to 8 travel soccer teams and they're learning Mandarin and they're doing the 80,000 things, it is much more important that at least once a week, my teenager, who, vaguely hates my guts in his own way, we still once a week, he'll show me a TikTok and we'll crack up at it together. We still have those attachments are not out there somewhere. They're just, you get fewer of them, I think, but that fat part of the bell curve, which is more of our interactions than not, are connected. It seems important rather than like, it's not going to be all day, every day, right?
No. And especially when our kids are going through big transition and changes like adolescence, it's like, God bless our teenagers. Their brains are on fire. Their social worlds are on fire. Yes.
And it is their job to spend more of their time away from home base and sometimes like farther away from home base. And I think that the security of attachment, it becomes our job at a certain point too, right? Because I have to trust that my attachment is secure enough that if my kid wants to leave home base for a long time and run really close to the tagger, I have to not be like, okay, I'm going to come chase after you and make sure you're safe. Like I have to stay home base, which is really hard.
Yes, which is why it's so important that we have community. That's another piece I talk about in the book. We're wired for attachment, but we're also wired for a village. There need to be other people in our midst who we can say, hey, this is happening right now. And I'm having the urge to, dress like a spy and head over here and see if I can potentially catch my child. And someone's going, hey, you know what? This is hard. This part's hard, but it's really important that you let them face their own consequences, because if you don't, they're never going to learn, or whatever the wise message is. Like there need to be other people in our midst helping us process our reactions, and people who know us well, someone who can say, oh my gosh, seems like you're taking it personally that your child wants to spend more time with their sweetheart than you. And I think it's not about you. And I'm wondering what's coming up for you. This may be your dad abandonment stuff. What is this for you? Because you don't want to get weird with your kid about something they're doing that's real normal.
Right. And that community aspect. And Another thing I love about the book is that it has very practical advice, including real scripts that you can use. Because I think that sometimes the conversation that we're having, because it's a free-flowing conversation, can get kind of lofty. But I like that you're like, this is literally what you can say. Here is an example. And I wrote 2 down. And I'm here until you are feeling better. I really wish you didn't have to do this. And I understand why it's so hard. And I think as we talk about, and we talk a lot about ACE's childhood, if you haven't heard it and us talk about it in the podcast, it's adverse childhood experience childhoods. There's literally a checklist, but it's having a number of specific adverse experiences as a child and how it will affect you for the rest of your life. And there's lots of work you can do around it. But I think sometimes when I talk to people in my life who did not get modeled secure attachment as they were growing up, that it can feel like, where do I even begin? So I think, as we start to close out, when you're talking to someone who says, I missed the boat on this, my kid doesn't like me, we're not attached, my kid's a 12-year-old and they hate my guts, and I wasn't parented well, and how I find myself here, what do you say to parents who want to take the first step towards this, or they're feeling really lost in their attachment and feeling like it might be too late or something's gone wrong?
So the first thing I say is that it is never too late. There is no moment in a human's life where it's not profoundly wonderful to have a caregiver say, I'm so sorry. I'm going to do something different. There's no moment. I mean, I've seen this happen when people are 70 years old and their parents are 90. I mean, it's healing, it's moving, it's powerful. So it is never too late. And if your kid's 12, I'm like, you're early in the game. You got this. We're going to figure this out.
You got years to go. Take it from me.
And actually, the first step is a little bit counterintuitive. The very first step is forgiving yourself. Because if we go to our children with a lot of anxiety about what we've messed up on, they won't feel that healing energy. What they will feel is an obligation to make us feel better. And so it will just kind of keep us in that cycle. So we really have to go, oh no, I think I messed up because I didn't know, and have that compassion we talked about at the beginning. I've been doing the best I could with what I've known and what I've had and the circumstances I've been. I mean, I'm thinking about a lot of women I've known who've been in abusive relationships that really made it hard for them to be present and secure with their kids. And then they leave and they're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. That's not what I wanted. And right. So you pause and you offer yourself the understanding that you did what you knew was best at the time. And then you find ways to grieve with caring people in your life who can also hold your dignity in that moment. I know how much you love your kids. Yeah, I can see how maybe the way that you were parenting wasn't secure, but I can also see that it was, in its core, your attempt to give your kids what they needed. And so now you get through that processing and your nervous system will become more regulated as a result. And then you'll have the bandwidth and the space for your children to process with you the changes that you're going to make. And that will involve some anger and frustration and mistrust on their part. Because when you repair an insecure dynamic, it's a little bit confusing for our kids. They're like, wait a minute, I've had this way of coping with you and your stuff, and now you're going to change and I have to figure something else out. It's totally possible. And that's why I do this work. It's why I wrote this book, is I'm like, this is one of the things we know from the research, is that we can shift our pattern at any point in time in our life. It doesn't matter how old you are. So we can change the legacy. And I write about it in the book, but my mom made a U-turn when I was 9 years old. And it's why I'm here. I mean, none of my work would be here had she not made the choice to shift her own healing and make a difference in our lives through that.
Yep. You're what we call a credible messenger in the business.
I love that.
You have come through and have a story to tell. This book is beautiful. It's practical and it's very accessible, and I truly recommend it. Eli Harwood, the book is called Raising Securely Attached Kids. Tell our audience, I mean, they know how to find a book. It's 2024. Most people know how to buy a book. We'll link to the book. Tell us where else they can find you and your work.
Okay. So I run my mouth on the internet, on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and the handle is @attachmentnerd. And so if you just head there, you can find everything. You can find my website. You can find all the links to books. I actually have 2 books. I have a first book too, that is a guided journal for anyone who has not dealt with their childhood trauma. And it basically helps you process it, and then learn secure patterns for your adult relationships, which is really important for our kids too, because if we're steady with the adults in our lives, we have more buffer for our kids. So you can go find all that stuff there. And yeah, just Google my books and you'll find those wherever you buy books.
Phenomenal. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thanks so much for talking to me today.
Me too. Love being here.
Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile with a message for everyone paying big wireless way too much. Please, for the love of everything good in this world, stop. With Mint, you can get premium wireless for just $15 a month. Of course, if you enjoy overpaying, no judgments, but that's weird. Okay, one judgment. Anyway, give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.